Hello everybody, today I wanted to show off a build that I made from Rogue One. This is Scarif, and it is the big final third act of the film where the rebels go to try to take the Death Star plans from Krennic on the planet of Scarif. So this build has over 8,000 pieces total, and it has over 50 minifigures with 2 vehicles, a bunker, a little bit of a jungle, and the little ocean front here. As you can see, it is a decently sized build, I would say, medium sized. And it goes from, it has 128 studs wide, and it goes 80 studs back. So, as you can see, there are a few kind of cool things to the build. First, all the figures I tried to emulate to where they were actually doing something. So I tried to pose everybody in a position that they would realistically be doing. So like ideally nobody's just standing around and like holding their gun just pointed vaguely at something. Hopefully everybody's kind of actually doing something. That was the goal, at least when I made it. Besides maybe K2SO, who was a last minute just stand in over there on the left side. So first thing, we have the AT-ACT, which is the big giant Imperial Walker right here. As you can see, it is just basically a reskin of the AT-AT, the play scale one from a few years back, or the most recent play scale one as of the recording of this video. And I basically just put the orange life vest on it to make it look like the one that we see in Rogue One. You, on the other side, have the U-Wing, which is not the old U-Wing, although I do have the old U-Wing. This is more of the modern U-Wing, which came out from the Cassian Andor or Andor TV show, which might add was my favorite. That's also what inspired this build, because I wanted to kind of commemorate Andor, and Rogue One was kind of where that started. So yeah. In terms of some main details and main features, you have this main battle, which is kind of happening right here, if I can zoom in some. And as you can see, there's a rebel who is smacking a stormtrooper, which is kind of based on what Chirrut did to the stormtroopers, where he cracked their helmets with his staff. And it's also kind of referencing that one episode of the Clone Wars, or I think it was the movie, where that one clone smacks a droid in the face. So here we have that stormtrooper's helmet getting cracked by that rebel in the forefront of the battle. We also have Jyn Erso right here, who's running up, and Cassian Andor a little bit behind her from the new U-Wing set. We also have this squad of Death Troopers. There's about 7 of them, and 2 of them are from the Night Trooper Battle Pack, because I only had 5 of the original actual Death Troopers. But from a distance, I think they look fine. Sorry to any of the purists who actually care about that. And then in front of them, we have some stormtroopers and sand troopers and other just Imperial forces, one of which has a rocket launcher, who is trying to take out that U-Wing before it gets back up in the air. Then we have that rebel over here with a little grenade launcher to try to hit some of those Death Troopers. And yeah, you can see here, there's a rebel over here who's getting his gun ready to rush over there to the battlefield. And here we have a rebel trooper firing a rocket at the AT-ACT. If I take off the AT-ACT, then you can see my favorite part of the build, besides the jungle, which is this bunker that I designed. And if you look at the actual Rogue One bunkers, it is fairly accurate to what you actually see in the film. The only difference is that the actual ones are a little more rounded on the roof, whereas mine's a little more triangular, I guess you could say. But this is kind of inspired by the famous scene where Krennic yells, "Are we blind? Deploy the garrison!" And then all the shore troopers and stormtroopers come rushing out, where all the rebels are waiting for them. Specifically, you have Baze Malbus and True Imwe, who are the Guardians of the Wills that were on the Rogue One team. I'll just give you guys a closer look kind of at the bunker there, and you can see more of the stormtroopers running out. And yeah, just try to give you one more overview before I go into the specifics. Okay, I apologize if the camera gets just a little shaky because I'm grabbing my phone now to try to hopefully show some of the details on a smaller scale to where you can actually see what's going on, where the figures would actually see. Here we have that same trooper from earlier and some of the details on the ground level. And everything that's going on. I tried to make it like a fairly big battle, but at the same time I didn't want to overcrowd anything to where you didn't really get a good sense of what was actually going on. I apologize if the audio quality isn't the best. I don't really have the best equipment right now to actually film, but I'm doing what I can. You can see some more figures back there. And this little cove where the Imperial troops are shooting down at some of the rebels. And then there's that one rebel pathfinder behind these death troopers who's trying to grab a few kills. Then if you look way in the back, you can see a dead death trooper leaning up against the bunker. And yeah, there's one more detail that I'm going to show off, and then the review should basically be over. So I'll cut to that, and then we'll be right back. The very last thing I wanted to show off was the Death Star plans inside the bunker with Krennic. Obviously, it's not entirely accurate to the scene, especially with the Imperial Patrol Troopers, because they weren't actually on Scarif, but they look cool enough, so I just set them there. And then you have some more of the foliage here. And there's one more view of the little alcove. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope you appreciated learning about my Moc. And if you guys have any suggestions or comments, please leave them below. I would be more than happy to review and take your guys' criticism, feedback, or whatever you want to say. So thank you so much for listening, and bye.